if you really sort of are like true to the psychology of fear, then you can write about literally anything you want. The biggest thing about horror is that it must be anchored by a strong uh story. Like the story has to be there, the characters have to be there, because really that's kind of the thing that we're watching, is like someone going through something terrible. If we're not invested in that person, we won't care whatever happens to them. What does the character want the most? What does the character fear the most? Like what are they trying to do to get it? It's all kind of, I think actually, like I take a lot from my like days as an actor, and just thinking about like what actors have to do, and like what you need to think about when you're crafting a role, and like making sure that there's strong, clear action in everything that you're doing for the characters, and that the characters have very strong drive. I don't know. I think that the thing I like the most about horror, and the reason I have like gravitated towards this, I don't know if this is like saying a little bit too much about myself, but that like you can kind of like dig into the skeletons in your own closet and like figure out what you're scared of, and like dramatize it. And that I think kind of when it comes from a more personal place, it's always more interesting and relatable. I don't know. Like one of my favorite horror movies is this movie called The Babadook, which is like about this lady who is struggling to solo parent a young child, and I'm like, yeah. The thing I like about horror, or like magical realism, things like that, sort of like bigger world genre things, which I love to kind of work in all of those areas, is that like all of our preoccupations and feelings and fears and regrets can like become a dragon or a zombie or something. You can kind of explore a lot of things like with it sort of outside of someone's head, I think. But it's all kind of just has to do with human beings in the end. I think it always is helpful if you can like write what you're pointing the camera at as much as you can, and describe it as much as you can. I mean, obviously, like paring it down to relevant details, but like if that's how you see it going down, like that's great. And like that's probably, it'll probably end up being a jumping off point for the production designer and the makeup artist and all of that. But if that's kind of the tone is always a really important thing to convey. Like sort of, is it a like genuinely scary possession that like 180-degree head rotation sounds like pretty genuinely scary? So I think like that is helpful in terms of like is it like a lightly scary moment? Is it like a deeply scary moment? Like what's the tone of it, you know? Horror comedy is like always really fascinating to me. I really like it because I don't know, I'm gonna get this wrong, but like somebody smart said that like laughing and like the panic response in our body when like we're afraid are like very, very closely linked. And so I always think like things that are funny and scary at the same time are like, I don't know, they really appeal to me, and I think they're really enjoyable. I think that's why so many horror movies have like elements of camp or like funny moments in them, because like those two responses are just like the sweet and the salty, you know, like they go together. The research part is really fun. Like I just like, especially on like Exorcist, I just like read a ton of books about like I was like on vacation with my family, and I remember like I like had brought along a book that was like written by a priest of like how to actually do an exorcism. I just find that kind of stuff like really interesting and fun. And you can also like watch other movies as inspiration. If you're like, okay, I know I'm doing like a possession story or like a haunted house story, like what are the most iconic movies that are like haunted house movies? What are the most like iconic possession stories? What are like the most like terrifying like home intrusion, like, and watching them and kind of just like adding them into your imaginative like landscape. I think like anything that feels like a fellow traveler to what you're doing, like anything that feels like it feeds you. It's just all about like giving your imagination more to play with. Like it's I don't know. That part I find actually really fun.